Father and mother and two sisters, one 2 years older and one 4 years older. The oldest sister said, can we take off our long underwear when we get to Albuquerque? And our car had isinglass windows, if you know what that is. And we came, and my parents were on the staff of a large school for underprivileged children and abandoned children, and there was probably 350 to 400 children.
Oh my goodness.
And that was my introduction to the school. It was called Rio Grande Institute. And about the first day or two that I was there, a little girl came up to me and said, "Meet me at that tree because I'm going to beat you up."
Oh my gosh.
And I just thought that was wonderful because I thought it was going to be a game that she was playing. And I met her there at the tree, and she, of course, she didn't beat me up. But it was a wonderful school for children. Now, the Congregational Church were sponsors of that, and then when their money ran out, my father went to Los Alamos to take over that school on the hill, it was called. And it was not that many children, but it was maybe 24 boys who were troubled. And my father taught them to take care of horses and ride horses, and they were going to experiment, and they wore shorts year-round, slept in the winter out on the porch, and then scientists started gathering, which we all know, Oppenheimer and all of them. So they closed that school. So my father bought 161 acres in Sandia Park. It had never been even looked at much. And there were wild horses there. And so he bought a small ranch there. And my brother tamed horses enough for us to ride and use. And that is where I spent my early years. And eventually I grew up, of course, and I got married and I had a little girl. And
that wasn't me. That was not me. That was my older sister. No, I come later. Not right. Not yet.
And my husband, after a few years, he was killed in an automobile accident, and I was alone with my little girl, and I kept saying, "I've got to have a career. I just can't exist." There was nothing in Albuquerque for me. I was working at a jewelry store, but it wasn't very much. And the manager there moved to Wichita, Kansas, and he called me and said I could have a job there if I wanted it. And I was just going to fly there and check it out and be interviewed and everything. And my dad says, "You can't go. You're too young." I was maybe 25. And so I persisted. And I flew there, was interviewed, got the job, and it was another jewelry store, but it was a big one, and it had china and crystal and silver in it. So I moved there and with my little girl, and we lived there, and I was not happy at that jewelry store. I wanted a bigger career. So the next door to me was Innis, 7 floors of beautiful merchandise. In fact, they were called the Little Neiman Marcus of the Southwest. So on my day off, I walked over there. I didn't go to personnel. I went right to the top. And his name was Zavatsky. And I said, "Mr. Zavatsky, I'm interested in working here." And I did not go through personnel. And so I told him I was interested in pursuing the bridal business, and I think that was the magic word. And he said, "All right, Catherine," he says, "you have a job. You have a job. You hear me?" And I said, "Yes." But he says, "I've got to fire a few people first." So after a while, I went to work there at Innis, and the first day I couldn't believe what I had done. What was I going to do? How did I know what to do? I knew nothing. I was a little mountain girl from Albuquerque, New Mexico. So it had 8 women working there already. I heard them talking about me, and they were making fun of me, that I was just a kid and everything. But anyway, I started in a place of that magnitude, with that much merchandise. Housekeeping was a big item. So I quickly started polishing silver, and I displayed it. I took merchandise off of tables, and I set them with cloths and candelabra and stuff like that. And I had 3 brides at Levitt's, and I brought them over to Innis and set them on the table, and the women stopped talking about me, at least. And from there on, it was just work, work, work. And then I was told that I had to have the gift shop too, and so that made almost a block of departments. And then I had to go to New York. Well, it didn't bother me. I thought it might be like going to Albuquerque or downtown or something. And I went to New York. I took a hat box full of little hats, white gloves. I had on high heels. And a friend who had called on me in Wichita, he said, "Catherine, we're going to have dinner tonight. I want to talk to you." And he said, "You've got to give up your little white gloves and your hat and get some low-heeled shoes on." He said, "These New Yorkers are going to eat you alive." Well, I did, exactly. He says, "Get a clipboard and a legal pad, put it on the clipboard, get a good pen, and go to work." And so and he said, "Do not leave any of your orders with them. Take them to Wichita, mail them in, or they'll just take you for a ride." And so I listened to him, and I did exactly what he said. I started looking like a normal person instead of a tea party, and I bought good. I did pretty good. And from there on, I wasn't so afraid, and I just displayed everything. I liked to display. And I was finally told I could do the windows with the furniture. I could accessorize them. And I did that with my gifts and stuff. And that was successful. And so I just worked, and the girls stopped talking about me, and we became friends. Then after several years, I married Elton Hobbs. He was the assistant manager of the furniture department, and we got married, and they gave me 4 place settings of my sterling silver. And
I still have those, by the way.
so it was just working fine. Then one day I had to fly to Kansas City for a meeting, and I was sick. I was so sick. I didn't know. I thought, well, I have the flu. And I told Elton, when I get back to Wichita, I've got to go to the doctor. I'm sick. So he took me to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Catherine, you have a baby." It isn't the flu, it's a baby.
It was me.
And so then I'd been working there for many years. I was an executive. I wore a white carnation every day, and we were allowed to wear black, gray, or navy blue. And so I went all over by then. Kansas City, Los Angeles and Dallas, back and down into the silver departments in New York, and it was nothing. It didn't bother me a bit. And so, but by then I just was ready to take care of my little baby and leave. And I told Elton that I would like to go back to Albuquerque because I wanted my child to know aunts and uncles and cousins. And eventually we did. We came back to Albuquerque, and I worked for, after she was a little older, I worked for 11 years decorating homes, and I decorated the largest home in New Mexico. And that it's on Altura and Washington, and it took me 4 years to decorate that home. It was so large. And so then I also did all of the cases of Cortese jewelry and displayed all of that. And then, by then, I was ready to retire. And I thought to myself, be careful of what you want in the way of a career, because you may get it. And believe you me, I didn't plan on such a career. I modeled clothes at Ennis. I gave lectures at Ennis. And I always said that the table was the center of the home, and that's where the woman was the happiest. I don't think that applies now with fast food, but then it did. And so that was my career, and I survived it. It wasn't easy. And my little daughter then was also, she modeled American Girl doll things in the dining room, and they were very strict at Ennis, and I went down to have something at the coffee shop for lunch, and they tapped me on the shoulder and they said, "You're supposed to eat in the executive dining room." I said, "I don't know where it is." And they showed me where it was. And they did not even like me to have a cup of coffee with my help, but I did anyway. So it was that was a era that I was there in, but it was wonderful, and I really appreciated having that kind of a career. And that's it.
Okay.
I'd like to add a few little things. The thing that she's most proud of is her career. The thing I'm most proud of is the ranch that she grew up on and has been in my family for many, many years. She forgot to tell the story of the time that her and her sister went down to get the mail, and there was a huge rainstorm. Now, Sandia Park is located on the east side of the mountains. I still live there to this day. My cousins still live on the original homestead. And I wished I'd had more time because I have a lot of pictures of the ranch, and of course much of it's been sold, but some of it's still there. And I'd like her to tell that story of the time that her and her sister Sybil went to get the mail, and there was a huge rainstorm.
Well, it had sprinkled for days, and Mother said, "It's sprinkling, you can't go get the mail." I said, "It sprinkles every day, it'll pass." Well, it was a flood, and
it's a long
there
way to
was
the
a
mailbox. It's
flood
a long
clear
way. It's a
over
couple of
the
miles.
land.
At least, about 3 miles.
I picked up the dog, And pretty soon through the mist, I saw Dad coming, boots on. He was carrying coats. And the very first thing he says, put down the damn dog. I was very glad to do that. That dog was heavy. But anyway, Roosevelt had the land contoured after that all over the mountains. And
To hold the rainwater.
to hold, well, so that it wouldn't wash. But it was, I had a horse, and I rode that horse most of the time. And so this little mountain girl that went to New York was just hilarious.
She started her life as kind of a mountain, a farm girl, and then she transformed into kind of a city girl. And then at the end of her career, came back to her roots. And she lived on the old homestead for 25, 30 years before she moved to Albuquerque.
7 years is all.
No, it was more than that, Mom.
Okay.
It was, trust me.
So anyway, all I have to say is be careful what you want, because you're liable to get it. So.
It sounds like it's wonderful.